Can you guys see my screen? Awesome.
Yes.
So as I said, we are only going to have two very broad things in this event. So should you participate in media engagements, that is interviews and answer calls from reporters? And if yes, how and when? So this is what I'm a fan of Kagwe and his comical presentation. So that's how I put it. Do scientists always ask themselves, do I need to participate in this media engagement at all? What is the importance of participating in this media engagement? So that is what we are going to explore right now, why you should and why you shouldn't. So I'm going to unmute someone or someone to volunteer whether you should participate in media interviews at all. So let me see. Agnes Maina, I've just unmuted you. Agnes, would you tell us why would you participate in a media interview with the journalist? If yes, and if no, why?
Well, I think I would participate because I once participated in a one by K24. I think it is important so that you can share, your knowledge with the rest of the world, with the lay people, also for them to ask questions and just clarify issues. Yeah, so I think it is necessary. Of course, some instances it is not necessary. You need to get guidance from maybe more experienced people, because sometimes when we know it happens, is your message gets twisted and it goes the way you do not expect it to.
Okay, so when you say your message gets twisted, what do you mean it gets twisted?
Yeah.
How does your message get twisted? I would like to understand, how does your message get twisted? Agnes?
Yeah.
So how does your message get twisted?
Your words are taken out of context. They say something different.
Okay.
And then yes. Like they misinterpret what you are saying, and it comes out there.
Okay, all right. Let me see. Jackson Kinuthia, would you participate in an interview? Let me just unmute you right now so that you can tell us. Jackson. Jadiel Moirore, you raised up your hand. Lucy, could you unmute Jadiel to tell us whether he would be able to participate in I have unmuted you, Jadiel. Tell us.
Hello.
Hello, tell us.
Yes, I would participate in an interview because of first of previous participants said to clarify it. Also to
okay.
Also to educate.
To educate.
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone in this place? Is there anyone? Someone is saying they can't hear me. Is there anyone in this place who will not participate in a media interview? I would like to see, like, you've made up your mind. No, I don't want to do this, and that's it. Is there any one of us there who doesn't want to participate in media interviews? Anyone? Okay, I suppose all of us are in the same page. So guys, this is why we should participate in media interviews. There are certain studies that have gone into finding out the importance of scientists. In this case, it could be vets like you or people in biomedical sciences, why it's important. And there's a study there that I've just put from a researcher called Polyakov, whose work has really been influential in this space. Science and research is core to ourselves, like food security. Like for you people, you deal with issues like anthrax. It touches both the economic and the socio-economic. So if you guys have that knowledge of about our lives that affect us, then it is like if you don't participate with the media, it's like it's like a doctor withholding health services from people. So it's important for you. No, Michael, you don't get paid to do interviews. It's important for scientists to participate in that, because what you tell us is surrounding us. It's the way we make decisions about what to eat, where to go, where to live, all of those things that you have knowledge on that. And then, you know, sometimes as Anne was saying, sometimes you're presented poorly in the media. You know, the people who have made themselves, they popularize science, they present you as some caricature in a very bad way. So if you don't come in that space, you know, scientists are always complaining, oh, you're doing this to us, oh, you're making us do this. But then you're not in that space. So how are we going to understand? How are people going to understand you if you do not want to participate in that environment? And then you guys are a group of people who, should I call it, with elite knowledge. You go to vet school for what, 5 years? Is it 6 years? All those years to learn a body of knowledge that is not available to everyone. So it will be of benefit to the public. This is kind of like tied to the first point. What you say make us change our behavior. Like initially, I'll give you an example. When I met the late Ken Wameyo, I used to have dogs, and I never, there are some things that I never used to, I love dogs, but there's some things that I never saw I needed to do to the dog. Like the dog could get stressed and all that when I don't walk them. And then when I met Wameyo, in the course of our friendship for the 4 years that I had known him, he changed my mind about stuff, all right? And you've seen vets like Akina Kahariri who go out there to do advocacy and stuff like that. They try to change policies. Like right now, I know veterinary doctors, the ones who are just graduating from college, do not have, they don't get paid properly. So if you, because of your knowledge of how that works, how veterinary medicine is important, you guys are the ones who can influence, you know, county offices to you know, to employ vets, to teach them how to put you in places for infectious diseases control and all that kind of things. All right. And then most importantly, you guys receive, some of you receive money from, you know, from the public, from the government. Anyway, even if it was donor funding, you have a duty to communicate your work to the public because you're funded by the public. All right. And then from my experience, and I will give you an example of a vet I will not mention. When the cabinet secretary just took over, this new one, he just took over office, and he came into office, and he had his committee, all right? So he was like, oh my God, Verah, he called, he said, my committee is just made up of politicians and people who don't know anything about this. So do you know someone who knows something about these zoonotic diseases who you can bring on board? And he was like, now as a journalist, I have to be careful because I have so many friends who are vets who are in that space. And then he was like, but I see you wrote this article. Could you give me the contact of this person and that person and that person? Those were all vets. And that is how some of them ended up in those committees to advise the government on how to handle COVID-19 from the COVID-19 and any other zoonotic disease that would come out. So it was from my article that Kagwe got to know that person. Actually, he had not known that there's an institution or a department like that in Kenya, but he got to know that. All right. So from my experience, it's important for you guys to put out your work there. And I've seen the careers of scientists who are participating in the public, who are giving interviews, take some, I don't want to call it meteor as in a big leap, but I've seen them, climb up the ladders. They have participations, and I've had, every time I write about Rift Valley fever, I always get an email from a scientist from, I don't know, Belgium, from as far as NIH. I remember one time NIH, someone from NIH, emailed and asked, would you link me up to that scientist? I've been wanting to do something about Rift Valley fever in East Africa, but somehow I've never had an opportunity to participate in that place because I have no connection. I don't know how that place works. So please link me up. And 5 months later, I'm seeing, concept note out here, participation of an interview. So you see, it is good. It is good for your career as well. All right. And then scientists are often left out of important debates. Just in the comments, I would like to see, when did you ever see a science topic on Twitter? I'm looking at your comment. Hello, for those people asking whether you need to pay to be on TV, no, you don't need to pay to be on TV unless you want to advertise.
I'm saying the first thing is
yeah. So has anyone ever seen a science topic trend on Twitter? I'm looking at your comment, guys. Tell me when you ever saw, or I'll just unmute you. Joseph Mwangi says, rare antimicrobial resistant campaign last year. I will pick up that comment in a bit. COVID was for everyone. So we can put that out. Kazungu says, never seen one. I've never seen any. So why do you think you guys are not trending? Isn't it that the work that you do is not important? And Nani, Simon, you said that antimicrobial resistant campaign. So you see, this was a campaign. It wasn't something organic, like the way you can have, what was the famous trend there? The wheelbarrows, the wheelbarrows was trending. Cheruyot, you cannot remember seeing anyone. Huh? Someone is saying, yeah, when a mine will bite that. Oh, God. Yes, on donkey population in Kenya. LinkedIn is where science trends. That's an interesting thing. Oh, my God. Mercy, you're not on Twitter. I hope you're not a millennial, because that is a shock. World Rabies Day. You see the kind of things that you guys are saying, like it's always on a specific day. Everybody would be tweeting about World Rabies Day on World Rabies Day, isn't it? But on a normal day, you'll not hear anything like that. Swine flu in China, very recent trend. Why is it that in Kenya here, you cannot just have a science innovation trend? Huh? Victor, I don't know, that's Yamo, animal welfare. Yeah. Salmonellosis. Gilbert, hiyo sijaona siku ile ilikuwa ina trend. Ili trend lini hiyo? Okay. Oh my God, John is saying we are not on Twitter with those emojis. Hilarious. You guys should be on Twitter, and I know someone will come to talk to you. Alex Jamoda will come and talk to you about that. So you guys are left out on important debates in the public sphere. The public sphere is like Twitter, is like Facebook, it's like a community baraza. So whenever we are talking about something like revenue sharing, why is it that people just think scientists cannot participate in a discussion like that? Because no one hears about them concerned, no one hears scientists concerned about anything else except their labs, their work, and all that, because you don't link your work to the people. You don't link your work to the people, all right? So it's important for you guys to participate from that. But also, if you don't participate, I understand why. Some of you don't have skills to participate in debates or in the media. And this is a quote that I was talking to one. I'm sure you guys know Karaoke Njenga. Karaoke Njenga told me that we are trained in the scientific method and wary of having our research misrepresented. He said that his postgraduate researchers, the ones that he trains, make it important that they suspend impulsive thoughts. Like instead, scientists just don't blurt out things, you know. They weigh evidence and then they want to be, before they say this is the truth, they want to weigh those uncertainties. So it makes them very cagey about how not to participate in those kind of interviews, all right? And some of you says you have no skills. I mean, your regimentation in training in research, it leaves you shy of self-efficacy. That is like, you know, presenting yourself like, guys, I've won, I've done this. Scientists are always so afraid of saying that, you know, every time my friend, what's his name? The one who, what's his name? This guy who likes Rift Valley Fever. And he likes basketball so much. Every time I reach out to him on an interview, he's like, oh, I don't want to talk. Yes, Nanyingi. Yes, Nanyingi. He's always like, I don't want to talk. But now he's overcome that and I see him on TV. I don't want to talk. I'm a scientist. I don't want to do these liquid things. He used to tell me that a lot, but see how his knowledge has become very, very important, okay? And I know some of you are also gagged by your organizations, you know? You have to go through layers of bureaucracy for you to do that. And some of you, as you've mentioned, you've had prior bad experience, you know? And some of you think that the media is such a small space for you to participate in for an adequate debate. Just the other day, Tumbi Mwangi and his colleagues got this lab in ILRI. And then I noticed part of that had this thing, CRISPR, the genome editing for animals. And then when I asked, I would like to write an article for this, and then the space was, you know, 500 words, were like, hey, Cesar, how are we going to talk about so he was like, how can you write about CRISPR in 500 words? So some of you consider the media's very inadequate space for debate, but those 5 minutes are never going to go beyond 5 minutes. So we are going to learn how to use those 5 minutes to your advantage. So this is the point where I would like us to have another chat, and I'll be unmuting you as it goes. Ama Lucy will help me out. So I like animals, so please bear with the fact that I like to put dogs and puppies on top of on my presentations. So what do you think is newsworthy to reporters? And let me see who I can unmute to tell us. I see Henry Kiplagat. Henry, are you there? Henry?
Yes, yeah.
Henry, tell us, what do you think is newsworthy? For journalists, what do you think interests us?
What exactly what they about the journalist?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can be approached by a journalist, and you feel not to give an information that is not authenticated, maybe by the authority or your seniors.
Okay, so when those journalists come to you, what do you think excites them?
Maybe a situation comes by an incident maybe happen and you are there. Maybe the public maybe introduce them to you that here is maybe a vet or what. And they expect, and the public and the media expect you to give information. They expect you to be on the know-how, and maybe they need an answer from you.
Okay. So
Yes.
sort of like you're saying that journalists want to be, they come to you to tell you something that can educate the public.
Yes, because they think maybe you are in a better position as a vet to give the information which the public might be in need of or wanted to know about it.
Okay, thank you for that, Henry. And I would like to hear from Elizabeth Munene. Lucy, please unmute Elizabeth Munene. Elizabeth, what do you think excites journalists? What do we consider newsworthy?
Hello?
Elizabeth? Yes, we can hear you,
Yeah.
Elizabeth. Tell us, what do you think excites journalists?
Well, I think it's something which can make news, something interesting, something which is not known, and not in a common thing. Yeah, it has to be something new.
Uncommon.
I think that is, yeah, not something common.
Something new.
Yeah, that one I think it would excite a journalist. If the story has not been told by anybody, yeah, that one maybe they can be excited. But if it is something already known, they will not be interested.
Okay,
yeah.
I see. Okay, that's really true. I see you've been hanging around journalists a lot. I'm going to pick on the ladies because I see they're not lifting up their hands. Mercy Miriam Wamboi Gatura, what do you think excites journalists? Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
As my fellow vets said, mostly I think when you have exciting news, that's when they come to you because they want to be popular. Maybe the one who is interviewing you, he wants to make news. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm summarizing. They come to you because they want to be popular.
Yes.
Oh my God, this is interesting. Oh, I don't know whether I do that, but I'm now going to be looking at myself for that. Thank you so much for that, Mercy. I see raised hands. Sophia Jepkemboy, tell me, why do you think journalists Sophia Jepkemboy? You can also type in the comments, guys. What do you think excites journalists? Hey, I've come to the comments. My goodness, something controversial. Only scandalous issues excite journalists. Actually, people don't love us. Journalists like new ideas and big news. Oh, Mercy, Sophia, tell us.
I think what journalists like is something unique, something.
Sophia, we can barely hear you, but I had something unique there, right? Sophia, your audio is a bit poor. But let me see. Wow, guys. Oh my God. Scientists are poor orators. That could be true or not. Something controversial. Maybe even twisted truth from the catch of Oh God. Oh my God. Controversy and gossip attract the media. They like content that will sell. Man biting dog. Aki Morris, surely. Huh? They are often after drama. They don't consider good news in most cases, but they are sure when they get drama. Alarming news. I see what you guys think about that. But to some level, you're true. You are some level. You're right. So I'm going to tell you what excites. You can see my slide here. I would like to first of all make this disclaimer that journalism, like any field, like real estate, like what, we are not away, we are not immune from commercial regimentation, you know, the pressure of the demand and supply. So while journalists are not victims, like we can decide what we allow into our field, we have to consider resources and we have to get profits. So sometimes factually accurate journalism is shelved to concentrate on some story over others, okay? Because you want, for TV, you want the crisp, clean shots, and those come with the very expensive cameras. And unfortunately in Kenya, we don't have state support for media. They're all private. The successful media entities are private. So there's something there about the, should we call it the political economy of the media, is that they also have to generate money to run, okay? So as you decide, as you think about what is it going to excite journalists, you have to think about that this is not, it's not charity. Journalism is very expensive. Carrying those equipment, buying them. There's some cameras, especially those ones that cover sports and riots, where the reporter can be at a safe distance. A small still photograph camera can go to as much as 4 million Kenyan shillings. And you don't need one for them, you need many. Have to put this in context. What Kenyans consider odd is not what South Africans consider odd. So that's why I have to put this within context. And later I will have to tell you, as a vet, you have to decide when the reporter talks to you, who am I going to talk to and how am I going to talk to them? If Nature calls you for an interview, it's very different to when, say, the Star called you. If a blogger calls you, it's very different from the way a TV reporter calls you. So you gotta balance that. And then what is news to us also is the usability factors. If something is very relevant to the reader, it is proximal, it's very close to the reader. Like for instance, people who have animals in Garissa, if you tell them about vaccines for Rift Valley fever that the state is just about to roll that out, a community radio in that space will be very interested in that, because the people they serve have animals that they care about, okay? That they care about. Of course, controversy, hotly debated topics like gene editing. When the GMO thing came out, people were like talking. Thank you guys for the comments. When the GMO thing came, that was news. Vaccine, sexual harassment I don't know whether there is sexual harassment in the veterinary field, but in this Me Too era, those are also stories that people want to explore. Are there people who take advantage of young vets and stop them from going forward, or some sort of, when you're being hired, if you're a woman, is that something that you gotta do to be able to get the job, And then novelty, like, when, what can I say? Novelty, I'll give you an example. Or novelty in a new thing on how you you do something. Like I realized in the northern, in Kwale, they now Rift Valley fever, and I was like, okay, now you don't have to go and ask the farmer, who are you, where do you live, can you describe to me your ward? You know, that is something that is novel. And then shock, simplicity, humor. If something is funny, if something is really, really, really funny, people like to take it. And if it involves a prominent person, you know, right now, if one of you maybe got, some of you are gone into like Dr. Is it prominent person? People will know what he has to say about, you know, funding for veterinary medicine or something. Or on an anniversary, every year you guys mark World Rabies Day. That is news as well, and people want to know what progress has been made overall. And then important factors like political, when Ruto was the Minister for Agriculture, that there was some news there, you know. Economic, when animals die so much and people are like, oh my God, they have lost all their livelihoods. Recently, I went to West Pokot to write about the lumpy skin disease, and I was shocked that one person lost 8 cows, and one cow was like, hizo ng'ombe sijui ni pesa ngapi, but they're just expensive, and they lost 8 cows. Now you can imagine, I was just seated there as a Luo calculating how many pajeros those are, you know. That guy had just lost 8 of his cows because of lumpy skin disease, and that was so sad. Or an important scientific discovery, like you guys make discoveries all the time, and it doesn't have to be this magnanimous thing, you know. It doesn't have to be this. It could be a new strain of a disease, BQ, foot and mouth disease. You have this new strain that you guys have never seen before, so you do that. But let me make a disclaimer. Science makes it new, is way into news for a variety of reasons, like those ones you have listed up there. But these reasons don't always coincide with what makes a scientific discovery important or significant. Okay, so as a science reporter, as a scientist, you'd be like causation, correlation. You know, was this an experimental study, or was it what is the other study apart from experimental? The others. Journalists really, that is not what they are interested in. And people always say, oh my God, you guys are shallow. But if you, the method that we used here, we have never used before. We use Starter to analyze this data. Nobody would read that article. Nobody would read it. And I have done this. An example, I put 2 articles, one about Verah and the other one about malaria vaccine just being rolled out by WHO. Which article do you think got so many likes and observational? Thank you. Yeah? Which Verah and WHO has just rolled out a vaccine for malaria. And you guys know how malaria is bad. So just in the comments, which article do you think had like 500 views in 1 second? Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Like that is how that industry works. Okay? It's not that they're shallow, but it's just the human psyche. And now as a scientist, we are going to have to know how to balance, how to be in that industry and not also lose our objectivity. All right? So it is important to put that in mind. Like, as you want to communicate, if you want to be heard, how many of you have ever how many of you have this friend who is always a gossiper? Who is this on the iPhone who is asking which bacteria is Verah Sidika surely? Oh my God. Huyo mwenye kwa iPhone, Lucy, we want to know who is this who is on this iPhone. Unbelievable.
Yeah, sure. And remember, you are supposed to write your name and KVB number. So I you need to edit that. Thanks.
Oh, this is hilarious. Which bacteria is Verah Sidika? Unbelievable. Okay. So I was asking, how many of you have that friend who is a true gossiper? Or who of you has ever participated in gossip? Hapo kwa comments. Comments zitambe nione. Yes. Pole unaona hizo vitu. Yep. So if you have that friend if you've ever participated in a gossip, what usually makes you want to hear more? I'm going to unmute someone. Gossip is hot news. Let me see who we are going to participate in. Derek Okoth, what would make you listen to gossip? Derek, we are waiting to hear from you. Actually, you had your hand raised. Derek, have you been unmute? Is Derek here? Derek is not here. Bernard Moenga. That name looks very familiar. Bernard, if someone was to start gossiping, what would make you listen?
Hello.
Hello.
You wanted me to say on what? On what? I think what would make somebody want to listen to gossip? Is one, it's sensational. And I think sometimes we also want the mind to be idle, to get that sensational things. And you know, we have this tendency, the mind has this tendency of wanting to listen to could I say sensational things.
Okay.
Sometimes they are not of worth, but you know what makes the mind relax and yes, so that's what I would say.
So Bernard, when you're still at it, do you think every time you pick up the newspaper, do you think that is the same person that still reads the newspaper or watches TV?
At times, the people change, but generally, if somebody has read a sensational thing, they would want to repeat looking at it again to see the outcome. You know, it's like you have seen these James Bond things when we were reading, when we were young and we were reading, and you are reading a James Bond, you don't want to put down the storybook because it's, you know, I don't know how I can put it, but you know, it makes you be, you sit on the edge end of the seat. You want to know what the next. Yes.
I like the way you put it. And Bernard, I can start calculating how old you are if you are reading James Bond's books.
We have interacted when we were with you, when you were doing the kissy, when we were starting the.
Exactly.
I
remember you.
Starting. Yes, that's a Bernard.
Absolutely. Now I remember you. Always in very good suits.
I don't know. I'm not in a suit today.
Thank you so much, Bernard. So I can see the women here are saying that male gossip is horrible. Surely, tuko kwa Me Too era jamani. People are allowed to gossip. Vane, Pauline, even men are allowed to gossip. So every time someone starts this thing, wacha nikuambie. Don't you want to listen? Every time someone tells you, wacha nikuambie. And especially in your circles, the gossips will be like, someone has just gotten a promotion. Mtu in the ranks, in the ministry. Someone has just gotten a promotion. And you guys are feeling like, this promotion, it was merit plus other things. You know, that's the kind of gossip that inatoka. Wacha nikuambie. Unajua Bernard. And you remember, okay, Bernard just got promoted. Let me want to hear. So that is more or less how news work, although in a professional way. It's just gossip that needs to be structured. So every single time you interact with it, and it's not easy. It's not easy to have gossip that is structured, but at the same time, this is gossip that we want to use to drive policy. So every single time you interact with journalists, please keep that in mind, all right? So, but then I have to tell vets that you have to choose a platform, because when you say the media, we mean legacy media, which is Daily Nation, The Standard, KTN, but then we have social media, new media. Let me just use that word, new media. New media is the blogs, which are also very powerful. You cannot run away from them. Social media. So what would make news in legacy media is not the same thing that would make news on new media. So you have to choose. I would not tell you, because your main focus as a communicator, I'm supposed to know a little bit and be an expert in all of those platforms. But for you as a scientist, you're going to have to make up your mind. Are you going to be the one that is on social media, or are you going to be the journalist? Are you going to be the scientist that is on legacy media? Because what is news on both platforms are not the same. Something that is shareable is not necessarily newsworthy to me. It could be popular. I'm like, yay, it could be popular, but it's not something that I would take to the paper. So there's that difference. So you have to choose where you're going to do. Someone has just said their gossipers have their own unique ways of making you want to listen to them. That is exactly what journalists do. Because I have to make you want to read about CRISPR. And you are what? You are a primary school teacher with no cows, but I want to make you listen and read about CRISPR and why it's important to you. Why do you think I'm just going to put here the jargon? I'm sure Lucy told you yesterday about the use of jargon. The moment you do that, people are like, scientists, this is the way they communicate. And I remember, I'll give you a very interesting comment, and we'll talk about that later. When I attended the KVA annual meeting in, is it 2016 in Meru? Is it 2016 or 2015? 2015. I went to talk to, who was it? I can't remember the name, but I went to talk to a scientist, and then I asked him a question. And then, he's on live, I put him on TV. And then he says, that is a putative host. So we are like that, putative host, honestly. What is a putative host? So you can imagine, people are live waiting to hear about this thing, and then the first word that comes out of the scientist's mouth, this is a putative host. It was unbelievable. Like, I was like, you have to really explain what this putative host means. So you have to choose what platforms that you are on. We're almost getting into an exercise right now, but just before I go, I would like to, this is a summary of actually a scientist who interacted with journalists and came up with a list of what scientists considered newsworthy. So you can see how graphic material ranks up there. Yeah, political relevance, range, the number of people affected. If anthrax kills one person, then you're like, RIP, that is so bad. But if there are 5, 10, but as a vet, you'll be like, but how infectious anthrax is? It's very little. Even one thing, it should be important. But no, that's not something that people are going to want to read that much. It's just human nature. So this is the moment where I am going to break you guys into groups. Lucy, you're going to help me out with that. There is an assignment here. I don't even know how you guys are going to divide yourselves out, but we could just copy it, Lucy, and then post it to them in the groups that they are in. But I would like you to, this was a paper by Dan, it was done, I think, with the Kina Mwatondo and the Kina Rosemary Sang. I can't remember, I got this from Close One, about Rift Valley fever. I like to write about Rift Valley fever a lot, I think. So when you go into your groups, given what I've told you about what is newsworthy, I would like you to go and think about, if I were a reporter, what would be my interest? What do you think I would pick? Because this is a summary of a study. I just picked it from Close Neglected Tropical Diseases. I just picked it as, this is a summary of the study. And I just picked it. So this is what most reporters, you have, like, we have deadlines, you know, and in the newsroom, deadlines are like military, like you have to send them in the paper. At Nation, we have like, is it 4 editions? And each of them, by 4 editions, I mean, it's the same paper, but the front page and the back page and the spots will be different for each of the regions, depending on, for instance, how to explain it. People in Coast would want to read about Joho and his politics there. People in Nyanza would want to read about BBI and Raila's relevance there. The Mount Kenya area, which includes Nairobi, would want to read about Uhuru and who is going to succeed him. Okay? And then there's a Western edition, I think, in Rift Valley. So we have to keep on making the content different for the different. So that is 4 papers that have to go out every single day. So you have to be on a really, really tight schedule to be able to do that and on time, or mtakosa gazeti the next day. So I'm a reporter. This study has just come into my inbox. And this is the summary. So as you go into your groups, I would like for you guys to list what you think would be attractive to me as a reporter from this little summary, and then assume in your group that you are the PI of this research, and what help you'd want from the government, from your colleagues, to solve this problem. Okay,